My boss was fine with it. It was a mom and pop shop. So he said, yeah, I'll come in and open on Saturday. So I get dressed up. I go in there, first interview, tie, suit and stuff. I walk through the door, looks at me, goes, what are you dressed like an accountant for? I was like, isn't this a job interview? And then he basically sits down and tells me he's looking for somebody young that with a Swiss cheese mind that he can fill all the holes with his knowledge, somebody without bias in any of the industry.
Sure.
And then I was
Swiss cheese mind was a compliment, by the way.
yeah, I didn't think it at the time until he explained it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Talking Lots podcast. Today we have the Boston guys. We call them the Boston guys. So the three of us live up in eastern Massachusetts, close enough to Boston to call us the Boston guys. You'll notice there aren't super remarkable accents here, I don't think. But if we have a couple cocktails on the show, that might change a tad here. But so Patrick Ford. Patrick, how are you, buddy? In Marshfield, Massachusetts, about an hour south of Boston for anyone keeping score at home.
It depends on the time of day, but yeah, I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
Awesome. First time on a podcast with the company?
First time on a podcast ever.
Ever? Really? I thought you were
on Yeah.
Else.
Nope.
It was someone else. And Chad Fay, who's a veteran to the podcast, he killed it on our Christmas episode last year. Chad's in Hamilton, Massachusetts, about an hour north of the city, correct?
Correct. Same as Pat on a good day.
Depending on the time. Could be anywhere between an hour and 4. Depending on the day and the time of year. So how are things going for you, Chad?
Things are great, Todd. Fantastic.
Things are great.
Season's here.
Super. I'm going to guess, based on your sweater behind you hanging on the wall for some reason, that you're just getting ready for Christmas up there.
Yeah, man. I got 2 little kids. We're getting, all pumped up and ready. Gifts are flying. We've got a lot of wrapping going on. We got the trees up. Got an inflatable dog out in my front yard. Everything's great.
An inflatable dog, huh?
Oh yeah.
Is it a Christmas dog, or is that there year round?
It's a Christmas dog. It was the last inflatable at Home Depot.
Yeah.
And yeah, no. My 6-year-old asked me why it's a dog. I didn't tell her that it was the last inflatable at Home Depot.
I love it, man. Oh, that's great. So I want to talk about Christmas. You guys both have little kids, right? My kids are getting older. My youngest is 14, oldest is 20, and I love Christmas time. But I remember back, Pat's got a new baby, and Chad, you got little ones at home. What a special time of year that is. So we're going to talk a little bit, probably about the Christmas movies and that sort of thing at the end of the show that you guys are watching, maybe some of the traditions you're starting to create, as a family with your kids. So love talking about that stuff. And you guys are at that great age where I want to hear some of the stories, but want to talk a little bit of sales first. So Patrick and Chad, you're both people that I knew for a fair amount of time before you came to work here. And I knew you as salespeople, and, Patrick, you were in sales leadership as well with your previous company. So I guess it says something about, me wanting you to join my team here and the sales team at the Pavement Group, because I knew how good you both were, right? You guys have had pretty good careers, and I would say, and you can take a compliment, just be like, yeah, we're killers. We are. No, but for real, man. And I think, success leaves clues, and I think it'd be fun to talk about, how you get into sales, and then how ultimately you really built a career. You're both fairly new. Chad, you're just finished your second season here at the Pavement Group, and Patrick came in with us at the end of the summer. So kind of just getting going there. So I've got to guess you're reaching back into the toolbox, to start to build out a portfolio, and, Chad, a national portfolio, which you haven't done before, and Patrick in an entirely new industry. So I'd love to chat a little bit about that. And also, I'm now a sport coat and T-shirt guy. I wanted to wedge that in there. In case anybody was wondering, this is what you're going to see every episode. I think it's a good look. So don't be distracted by it. Let's get right into it. So, so Chad, I'll start with you. You were in the beverage industry, really to start your sales career.
Not entirely, no.
Okay.
I actually started when I was fresh out of college. I went to Northeastern, and I went to a co-op school. So it was, 6 months on, 6 months off of work. I was actually working for HP Hood through college. And then once I left college, I actually got a sales job in like the technology world. Actually, I was selling. I worked for basically a third party sales outsourcing company that their main client was 3Com, and so I was selling
Oh,
Palm Pilots and modems and a bunch of stuff I did not know anything about.
who are you selling them to?
A lot of the big box stores. I mean, a lot of the job was product demos,
Okay.
which is super interesting and fun. Is to demo a 56K modem.
Dial up at that point?
I'm dating myself a little bit there, but
Yeah, sure.
Palm
Somebody
Pilots.
should be able to do that. AOL online sounds right now. We'll drop it in. But so you were doing product demos. I mean, were you just going in and say, "Hey, here's the latest and greatest. This is what it does," and leaving, or did you have to like try to close them on taking a certain amount, or placing an order or something while you were there?
That was pretty much it. If the product demos usually, if they went well, obviously you were selling stuff off the shelf, and you sold it off the shelf. They had to place a new order. So yeah, I mean
Okay,
it was. They had that feeling to it.
sure. Hey, Tyler's on.
Am I supposed to be on here?
You are not, Tyler.
Not supposed to
Great
be here, bud. Great
Ah,
to see you, though.
Tyler's
Welcome,
the producer, obviously a great host of his own show and a guest host on many other shows. We're talking sales today, Tyler. You can hang
Right
in
up
and
my
listen if
alley.
you like.
Right up my alley. Okay.
This is how it happens
do.
in Hollywood. This is how it happens. But
This is how it just. This is the surprise.
so, Chad, all right. So back to that. So I'm trying to figure out, was that a little more of like sort of a marketing role or a business development role, as
It was,
opposed to
I
a
would
sales role?
I'd say it was a little more marketing more than anything. It was
Okay.
it was veiled in the that it was a sales role, but there wasn't it wasn't a ton of sales. I was a sales rep, but it wasn't.
That was the title, was sales rep. What kind of
Correct.
training did you get at that time?
There was a lot of product training, so they would fly us out to 3Com headquarters out in California, and then they also had a building in Chicago. So just learn about the products. Like I said, around that time, Palm Pilot was big. Obviously,
Okay.
you can do all those things now on your iPhone, but at that point, that was groundbreaking technology.
This is pre-BlackBerry, right? BlackBerry was launched to compete with the Palm Pilot, I think.
Correct.
So was that not even a thing then?
I don't believe so. No, I mean, I think
Okay.
it's like cell phones were just kind of getting started, and people had their Palm Pilot for mainly scheduling and things like that. I mean, there were some cool things that it did, but um, this
Okay.
is I'm trying to remember all this too as we speak. I'm like,
Yeah, sure. That's all right. We don't have to focus too much
but
on that. But I think
long
it's an
story short is
interesting
that
conversation.
I left that and then went to the beverage business. So it wasn't a ton of time in technology.
Okay. And when did you start having to really close deals as opposed to do? I know the beverage business, same thing, where it's a lot of there's a term like merchandising, right, and marketing and samples and that sort of thing. Like where you had to go in and you were, you had to kill what you were going to eat. When did that start for you?
I mean, that started immediately in the beverage business because when I
Okay.
first started, I started with Arizona iced tea actually,
Oh wow.
and it's when they were kind of and they were I wouldn't say their infancy, but they were pretty young and they needed to get shelf space, so you had to go in and it was door to door selling with we had distributors, but you had to go out and sell to convenience stores and grocery and things like that. So there was a
No
lot
kidding.
of times that I spent in convenience stores trying to sell shelf space, which was at a premium.
Wow. All right. That sounds like a great training ground. So you're
It
going
was,
in
it was
mostly independent. I assume somebody in corporate's got the 7-Eleven account, right? So you're going into like these independent regional kind of
correct.
places.
Yeah, and a lot of it went to like I said, a lot of it was shelf space, and basically you would see the shelves were full. I mean, why wouldn't they be? And so a lot of my sales strategy went into finding new space for that to go in.
Okay.
And that was a lot of measuring and figuring out, can I fit this large 24-ounce can into their set, and making it happen on the spot. Like I'd have stuff in
Really?
my car and say, I'll give you a free fill right now, and I know I can get you a whole nother shelf in here, and that's how I'd sell it.
Wow. And you had some success doing it that way.
Correct.
So what do you think is the biggest thing you learned during that part of your career?
I think it was the beginning of the interaction with the customers, and a lot of it had to do with, like the cold calling part was, it's nerve wracking to start. And so going in and having to, figure out ways to get somebody's attention. And just really just on the fly. Like you walked in and, I didn't, they weren't expecting you or something like that. You kind of had to just do it. And so really trying to get through the nerves really of cold calling.
Sure.
That was my start there.
Well, so you kind of learned how to take a no at that time. I mean, it sounds like you probably got a lot of no's back. I've dealt with convenience store owners, and most of them are pretty tough.
There was a ton of no's.
Yeah.
There was a ton of no's. And you walk down the street, you went to the next one.
Okay. Love it, man. That persistence, a little bit of that grit. Patrick, how about yourself? When did you figure out that, that you were going to be able to do this job, that I can make a living here? I can feed my family doing sales. Do you remember when that sort of aha moment was, or that figure it out moment was for you?
So it was probably my second job, which was the insulation company where you and I had met, and I had been there for a couple of years at that point. I never really wanted to do it. I was going to be a teacher. I went to school to be a teacher. And then I actually also started in the beverage industry, but slinging coffee really is what I ended up doing. And from there, I was working at a little mom and pop shop. The owner of the insulation company used to come in at like 5:00 in the morning, and I'd always be there, and he'd be the only, we didn't open till 6, but I'd always have coffee ready. And so you come in and get it and then go. And then he told me that he didn't think I should go to school to become a teacher because I would find it very unfulfilling. And because he had done it in South Carolina for a couple of years before he came back to take over his family's business. And he knew the owner, and then it was a bizarre story. He kind of told me, "Hey, I want you to come work for me. What are your plans?" This was the end of the summer. I was getting ready to go to grad school. And I told him that. He said, "Don't go to grad school. I'm leaving for Spain. I'll be back in 3 months. We'll talk then." And just walked out the door. And that was it. And I was just, and so my dad used to come in that coffee shop all the time, and the owner was there. And I'm like, "Who is this guy? And what does he do?" And they told me, he owns an insulation company. And I said, 21-year-old kid, 22-year-old kid. And I'm like, "I don't care about insulation at all." But they're like, why don't you take the fall off and see what he has to say? So then he came back in October, and
it was powerful enough. And you got
it was interesting enough. I don't know if it was powerful enough
to come back,
but it was interesting enough. And I didn't really have, like I could have gone to, I had all my application, I hadn't sent it in yet. It was still like early summer, and I was just like, we'll see what this is. So I took a chance.
Hooked on the idea of going to grad school anyhow.
I was, because I knew I needed to become a teacher. But I was in the process of doing all that stuff, but I was kind of like, maybe take the summer off, not have to worry about it. So I go in the fall. Like I made pretty good money at the coffee shop. It was easy. I'd open up. I get there at like 4:30 in the morning. Yeah, I get out by noon. There was a lot of tips, so I'd spend the rest of the day at the beach. It's a beach town, so it was great. For being that age, it was awesome. And so he came back, and his first thing when he walked into the coffee shop and saw me was, "What are you still doing here?" I said, "You told me to put my life on hold for you." And he goes, "Oh, okay." It was like I think it was like a Thursday. He was back. He's like, "Come to my office on Saturday morning for an interview." And I said, "Well, I can't come. I'm working Saturday morning. Can we do it maybe like Monday?" He's like, "No." The owner of the coffee shop's name was Mark. He goes, "Just tell Mark you're going to come in and see me. He'll be fine. He'll open the coffee shop." And then walks out the door. And I'm like, again, who is this man?
This mystery man.
It was crazy. It was so bizarre. And you have to know him. It's just sort of his personality. He was, very, very smart, but very flighty on some of that stuff. Yeah. So my boss was fine with it. It was a mom and pop shop. So he said, "Yeah, I'll come in and open on Saturday." So I get dressed up. I go in there, first interview, tie, suit and stuff. I walk through the door, looks at me, goes, "What do you dress like an accountant for?" I was like, "Isn't this a job interview?" And then he basically sits down and tells me he's looking for somebody young that with a Swiss cheese mind, that he can fill all the holes with his knowledge, somebody without bias in any of the industry.
Sure.
And then
Swiss cheese mind was a compliment, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't think it at the time until he explained it. But But
Okay.
then he told me that I was hired right then and there. Handed me a credit card, told me to go buy some office furniture. So I didn't know what to do. So I went and bought the cheapest of everything I could find. And then I
Yep.
came back, and he told me, why didn't I get a leather chair? I'm like, this is not my money. I'm so confused.
Sure.
And I said, I got to let Mark know, that I can't come into work on Monday. He's like, he'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And then, so that's how I sort of got into the role. And then I was there for about.
So what was the role? Was it defined, or was he like, I'm just going to teach you about the business and
It
figure
was,
out?
it was sales. It was gas fireplace sales. It was an
Okay.
insulation company that did gas fireplaces. He needed a salesman for that. But I basically shadowed him for 2 years
Okay.
when he wasn't going back and forth to either this family's house in Spain, or he had just fallen in love with Brazil and was taking like 3-4 month trips down to Brazil. So I learned a little bit, and then he was gone. So it was really a trial by fire. I'd gone out with him, I think 4 weeks before he had, decided he was going to go to Spain for a month. And so I was the only person there that could do any fireplace sales. So I was winging it, really. But at the time, I was doing sales, and I was getting there early in the morning. So I had to get the crews out, but I didn't know anything about what I was doing. So I'm trying to tell these grown men what they're doing. And it was just a very interesting, not knowing anything at all. But it eventually worked out. I shadowed him for 2 years on and off. So I learned
Was he a
everything
good
about the
salesperson?
business. What's that?
Was he a good salesperson? Did he have a certain style?
Uh, a little, yeah. I mean, he was eccentric. So, like his sales style, a lot of the stuff that we were going out to look at was either people that already knew him that he was doing business with, or if it was like a homeowner or something like that. He's very interesting. He's one of those guys that would grab your attention sort of right away, and he would just talk to people.
Okay.
And I learned that at the coffee shop part of it. Like that was my first introduction to sales. I was talking to people all the time, and so you have interesting conversations.
Was it natural, or was that like a thing a skill that you had to build?
It was natural for me. The hard part, like Chad was just talking about, cold calling. I've never done cold calling really up until this job. Everything that we had was warm leads. The company had such a good reputation. There was a lot of incoming phone calls, so I was responding to them. So if somebody already wanted me to show up to their house, or a contractor wanted me to show up to his job site.
Yeah, sure.
We did virtually no prospecting at all.
Gotcha.
We had this great little thing we called the magic mailbox, where people would call in, they'd want estimates. It would go North Shore, South Shore, Boston, Metro West, Cape Cod, and you just grab the things and see where they were, and then you'd make phone calls and say, hey, you're in. I know
That's
you're
a product too that's commoditized to a large degree. Well, I feel like you got two different things there. The insulation, I think, is probably commoditized, and then you've got to be much more consultative when you're selling a fireplace, right? Because it's gonna
well, gas fireplace, like they were always it's like a luxury item. Like insulation you need to complete the project. A gas fireplace, and when I started, they weren't really, nobody liked gas fireplaces because they were taboo. It wasn't real.
Yeah.
And then by the time I ended up leaving there, nobody's putting in a wood burning fireplace anymore. Everybody's going gas. So it kind of flip flopped in the 18 years I was there.
So getting into what we do here, and Chad, I'm going to ask you the same question, so be prepared.
Spoiler alert.
So, you were selling to homeowners, and you were selling to contractors that were building homes. That was a pretty repeatable cycle there, right? So you had the one-offs with the homeowners that were coming to you, and then contractors that had their insulation guy, and they were just calling, they were banging the phone. So you come here, we're a growing company. We're portfolio based. We work nationally. What are a couple of the things you said? Your prospecting is a little different. You got to hit the phones or emails or whatever. What else are you doing different that you weren't doing 10 years ago at your other job from a sales standpoint?
Well, really, it's prospecting. It's the whole part of it. It's research.
What's beyond the term? I mean, is it a lot of emails, a lot of calls?
So to begin with, like it's just trying to find company, not knowing the type of companies that we're really working with. I go from sort of like a very condensed area of contractors and homeowners, Eastern Massachusetts, to a nationwide anybody. And so, once I got figured out what our company really does, and who the best people, the types of company, real estate investment trusts, or people in industrial, in the industrial realm, like just trying to figure out those people, then it became a lot of Google searches. LinkedIn's been huge, just search and trying to find companies. that I think are going to be a fit for us. So it's a lot of research just to figure out, because I don't know anybody in this game. I didn't come from this game, so they're all new to me. Everybody's new to me. So I'm trying to see where I think we're going to fit, and then trying to find the right person there. Whether it's making phone calls or sending out emails. You know, Mikey Saps, him and I were talking the other day. He's got a little bit of a different approach for what he does. He just throws, cast a wide net and see what happens. I've tried to focus it a little bit more. I'm trying to expand to more like what he does, because it seems to be working for him too.
Sure.
But it's different. Like, I want everything to be perfect, so I want to find the right person. Like, that's just me. Like, I got to get the right guy. And I've been lucky enough, because there have been some people that have said, like, no, it's not me, but you should really talk to so and so, and that's great when you get that type of thing. But that's for me been sort of the hardest part, is trying to figure out who it is that we're supposed to work for, and what tends to be a good fit. And it's been good. So far, like, it's starting to build. I'm starting to find the right people, starting to establish those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it is at the end of the day. For me, anyways, we have a service, and I truly think our company is probably the best one to give them that service. And so I believe in that. And so that's what I try to express to people. I've never been like a salesman, and the slick kind of salesman where I'm trying to get in. The last thing I ever wanted to do was cause a problem for somebody.
Sure.
All I want to do is provide solutions. So I want to be the first phone call, that they make. Hey, do you think you can take care of this? And honesty, I always thought was the best policy.
Oh, for sure. So Chad, how about yourself? Like, from what you were doing before, that you got into asphalt sales 7-8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
What was the biggest thing you had to change in your approach to sales, your approach to customer acquisition? Or I don't want to say change, but like, what did you learn? What did you adjust?
Well, I would say, like, the main one to start is that a lot of things in the beverage world are mainly transactional, where it's a one-time thing almost, where you're still doing. When I got into the beer world, it became a little bit different, because you're trying to build relationships and things like that. This is far more relationship building, where this is a long-term relationship that you have with the customer over years, and that's what we're trying to build here. Where if I went in with a new IPA into a bar, they may take it that one time, and they may not take it again, depending on how it performed while it was in the on draft or something like that. And if it was doing well, typically there was a lot of follow up and feedback, and try to do whatever you could promotionally to keep your draft lines and or your shelf space or something like that. But this is and that still was a little bit more short term, I want to say, where this is a much longer term. What we're doing for our customers are they have lots of properties. There's a lot of different issues at each different property that we're trying to solve year after year, and then as well as giving them solutions in how to best spend their money over those years, versus me just saying, here's this beer, do you want it? And that was, like I said, there was a lot of relationship building there too, but it just had a different feel to it. It was a lot more.
Yeah, sure. Well, talk a little bit about, again, you and I have been at this for a long time now. You're a little younger than me, but we're getting up there, Chad. Just got to face it, we're getting up there. The game changes a little bit. Like creating a personal brand and using digital means to connect with customers. Do you find a lot of success with that? Has that been a learning curve, or has that kind of been natural for you?
I think it's a little bit of a learning curve, to kind of put yourself out there digitally, that people know who you are because of what we do. There's several different options for people to go out and get their parking lot paved. I think that having the ability to speak to them directly and kind of just from the heart, of kind of who I am, is something that's is slightly uncomfortable for me, but is certainly getting better, and I find that it has helped over time. And it's become easier over time, and I do think it helps. I think it's good, where it's just not a voice on the other end of the phone. Somebody can look me up on LinkedIn or whatever, and see that I'm a real person with kids, and I've my struggles daily or everybody else's, like that's what it is. But I celebrate all the good things of being a family guy, and
Yeah.
I'm here to help. So
I think you two have both done a really good job of that this year with sharing through social media, like who you are and both family men. And again, you're kind of at a similar place in your life cycle of being parents and having younger kids. And you both seem to really enjoy that. Patrick, your polar plunge, your monthly polar plunge has been a highlight for me to see every month when you do that. Are you getting good reactions on that? So Patrick, I just set it up a little bit. He does a polar plunge and off the coast of Massachusetts, where it's not always warm, in the ocean once a month. I think you picked the warmest day, but that's smart. That's smart.
I do. I listen. That is planned. I'm not an idiot.
Yeah.
You know,
But
I'm
you
not
get a
waiting
lot
for
of
the COVID
reaction
day.
online for that, like through Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever.
Yeah. There's I have gotten some good feedback on that stuff. It started really. This is the first year that I've done it. New Year's Day. I don't know if you guys remember, around here was like 60 degrees. So like
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
me and my wife went. I'm lucky enough. The beach is walking distance. I can walk 200 yards and I'm at the ocean. And we did it. It was the one time my wife did it. She said, "I'm not doing that again," even though
That was it.
temperature was warm, but the ocean was in the 40s.
Yeah.
And then we got a nice day in February, and I did the same thing. I tried to get the kids to go; they wouldn't go. They went down there and they ran around in their bathing suits, but didn't want to touch the water.
Okay.
But yeah,
100 yards is
was
not is not far enough distance for you to talk yourself out of it.
no,
That's
it's
good. 2 football fields, right? I mean, that's
yeah. And I don't know what I mean, it could be a little bit. It could be a little bit further than that, but it's just I don't know. It's fun. I did it once in college with one of my buddies was doing it. I think he did it for like 2 years straight. And we went in February. There was snow on the beach, and it was cold. But it was the one day we were home, or like the weekend we were home for college, and so I
okay.
was like, yeah, we'll absolutely do it. But it's just I don't know. It's fun. Everybody does cold plunge. Has cold plunges at their houses now and stuff like that. Why not? It's the Atlantic. It's right there.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's gonna be good for you.
Listen,
so, Chad,
I didn't last that long.
I would like to put out a challenge to us Boston TPG guys that we, the three of us, who all live in coastal towns for the most part, find a way for this to be something that we do as a team.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll do it once a month.
I'll do
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
That works.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to commit. We'll start in January. Start January 1st, or sometime in January. You're going to do your
Sometime in
first one.
January.
I'm in. I'm gonna do it in Clearwater the second week of January.
As long as it's the Atlantic, right?
February, I think I'm in Naples. So yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
no, definitely. Let's do it, man. I'm 2 minutes from the beach as well. So and what's funny, man? There's a lot of like older folks live in our community to begin with, and a lot of them swim all year. You'll see them out there with wetsuits and stuff, and I mean, God, that's gonna keep you young. Dude, just jump in the ocean's just such a healing thing. It always blows me away, and I'm like, I want to be that person someday. So
There was an older lady that used to live down the street from me, Mrs. King, and she would go. I feel like she would go all the time. You would just see her walk out, and she wouldn't even she wouldn't dress up to go to the beach. Like on the cold days, she would just be in her bathing suit, just walking right down there. Not a wetsuit or anything. She would just go in, real old school.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, accountability partners right here. Chad, I like it. You threw it out there.
I'm putting it out there.
Let's make it happen. And
There you go.
if it doesn't happen, the first one to miss, they got to make a donation to, maybe one of the other guys' favorite charities or something like that, or Capital Grill for you, Chad. That's your favorite chair. I'll send you a gift card. Something like that.
Steak is my favorite charity.
So, Chad, if you were, talking to somebody that's just getting into sales, and somebody in their 20s just got out of college, whatever it is, they're starting a sales career, don't really know anything. What's the biggest piece of advice that you would give them to get started?
I would say, and I think that this is, has served me well over my career, is to start with the customer, and then work your way back. And so what does it look like for the customer, for their experience with you, and try to put yourself in their shoes, from start to end. How does it sound when you're on the phone together? What happens when projects are going? What happens when the project is over? And what does that kind of look like from their end? I used to do this with my old boss, is that before we would do like a walkthrough with a customer of a, obviously a new parking lot or whatever it may be, I would do a walkthrough with him, and I basically just put myself in the customer's shoes. And what would they look at, and what would they be concerned about? What would any changes or anything that they might have? What would that be? And then try to get myself ahead of it. Number one, but number two, just really have that feeling. And then typically 9 out of 10 times I was right. And so once I got myself in that mindset, and and trying to think of it from the beginning to end of the process of dealing with me and TPG, and what does that look like? And so really just starting with what do they need? What do they need out of me? What do they, I just think that just
so really understand almost like the psychographic of the customer that you're going after, and being prepared to stay ahead of them that whole process.
Yeah, I mean, you need to find out. You got to think like them. You got to think like the customer, because not necessarily all the time are they spending their own money, but they've got people that they need to answer to. You need to, you're trying to put them in the best light, because it's it's been put in their court. It's their job, and it's like, all right, how can I make their life easier with what I do?
Yeah, sure.
So that's I would say that would probably be my main.
I forgot about you. One little tidbit for someone starting out in sales. You got 30 seconds to tell them exactly how to build their perfect career. What are you telling them?
I'd say be honest and be yourself. I think that for me has served well. I never try to sell anybody on anything. It's always just, to what Chad said, listen to what they want and then be honest with them. You can either help them or you can't help them. I've gotten more business, I think, in the past by not being able to perform something for somebody, but trying to help them out with it. That led to other referrals down the road, and that opened it up. And it wasn't anything I was trying to do other than I just like to help people. So I found that worked for me. And if you don't know the answer, don't be afraid to say you don't know the answer, but you'll find out, and then and then follow up with it. People appreciate that. Then anybody can see right through when you're starting to talk yourself in circle, and then, then trust is just, it's gone.
Very truly, I found that when I had the confidence to say, I don't really know, to a customer, is when my career changed dramatically, because I was such a people pleaser that I wanted them to think I knew, and not from trying to be dishonest way, but I just didn't want them to think I was an idiot. And once I realized, like, humans are humans, right? And we're just trying to help each other out, and just, you're dead on, man. The more honest you can be, say, I don't really know, I'll try to find out, or why is that important? And then you sort of expand into, I'm a problem solver. That's much more of what I'm doing here. And I can't solve problems if A, don't tell them the truth, and B, they don't tell me the truth. We're never going to get there. So that's pretty good, man. That's pretty powerful. Be yourself. But what about turning the camera on yourself? I mean, was that you both said that it was kind of hard for you? Oh, you're a little more of a ham, Pat. You learned on the dance floor at the Christmas party.
It's different. I mean, I was in college when Facebook first launched, and I was one of the 6 colleges that had first launched, and I was all about.
Was it called Facebook at the time when that?
Yeah, it was Facebook. Okay. It launched in Boston. I think it was like UMass, BC, BU, Northeastern. It was all the.
He was at Harvard, right? Zuckerberg.
Harvard, yeah. I should have said Harvard, like MIT. But then. And then I quickly got off it when my grandmother was trying to reach out for me like 2 years later, and sent me the same message 3 days in a row. And I responded to her, and I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do this. So
I don't want to do this.
Yeah. And then it's just a waste of, the waste of time that it's a time suck for a lot of things. So I say that, and I just had to jump back on it because I need to be involved with my kids' school. And apparently that's one of the only places that they post things. So,
okay. That is why I love LinkedIn, to be honest with you, because I love the social part of it. And then, having an outlet for business and be able to just not have to see all the crap that you see on all the other channels.
Well, that's just it. So it has been different for me. It's tough. It's like Chad said, it's tough putting yourself out there in front of people. I don't know how like TikTok works, and all these people that love to talk about, turn the cameras on themselves, and there's hundreds of thousands of them. It seems like that's a tough thing to do. Trying to get one thing out a week is, I'm scratching my head trying to figure out what would anybody want to know from me. It's just,
Just be yourself and be honest. I heard that from a smart man once.
Sounds very wise.
3 minutes ago was you. So Chad, what's planned for Christmas? Any traditions that you're looking forward to? How old are your girls?
6 and 2.
6 and 2. So again, magic time of year.
Yeah, it's great. There's nothing. I mean, we typically like to go to a couple things like we're doing zoo lights on Saturday.
Okay.
The kids get to walk through the zoo, and the zoo's all lit up, which is kind of
Very
neat.
cool.
So it kind of kills two birds there. There's
Kills two.
another.
Are the animals? They got like just lights strung all over their antlers and shit.
Yeah, well, most of them are like hiding, and so because it's dark and cold, and they don't really care about the hunters.
I haven't done one of those, but I never considered that the animals might still be out at the zoo while you're doing the light stroll. I figured they were like,
no,
I don't know where they put them in the winter, but New England, those animals are cold.
Yeah, they're still. Well, it's just weird because you go and the flamingos are still out, and you're like, I don't understand why
they're frozen in place in the water.
Maybe those are just like lawn ornaments. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. I mean, like a lot of stuff with friends, and we have a lot of friends with kids of similar ages. So just gingerbread houses and zoo lights. There's another trustees property that's close to us that does a like a light show type of thing where it's a like a walk through their property with it's all lit up. It's great.
That's awesome. Oh, nice. All right, do you guys have a Christmas movie that you watch every year that's like a must watch? Your favorite, family favorite? It is. Okay. Well, we discussed that last year.
That of course
we're all overrated, but that's okay. We don't need to rehash that argument again.
No, please let's not. That and I mean Christmas Vacation and Elf. Those are always in there.
So good. Yeah, those are so good. Patrick, how about yourself? What's cooking for Christmas with the kids? Give me the rundown on your kids' ages.
So I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 17-month-old, and 1/3 of a person old.
Yes.
On in the oven.
Man.
So yeah, it's gonna be busy around here. But our big thing is my mom has always had people over on Christmas Eve forever. Going back. I think it was maybe her parents' tradition. Everybody would go to their house on Christmas Eve. So now, that tradition is going to keep going. But family, it's like an open house to just all our friends, like Chad. I got friends that all have kids our ages. They'll all be over, aunts, uncles, cousins, extended family that feels like aunts, uncles, and cousins that just parents, friends. Like it's chaos, and it's great.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. So we have that. Looking forward to that.
Are these all New England folks?
Yeah. Every now and then a relative comes up from out of state, but
okay.
I think this year it's going to be all New Englanders.
Tommy, Paulie,
Sally.
Always is a Murph. There's a Murph.
Of course, there's a Murph.
There's always a Murph.
What's your favorite Christmas movie of all time, Patrick?
I'm a sucker for like the old claymation stuff that came out in the stop go animation stuff. So The Year Without a Santa Claus.
Snowman, that stuff.
What's that?
Like the Abominable Snowman, that one.
Yeah. Like Year Without a Santa Claus with the Heat Miser and those guys. I always like that one. My kids can't stand them.
What do the kids like?
They like the new Grinch cartoon movie that just came out a couple years ago. And
not the Jim Carrey.
Not the Jim Carrey. They find him like it's kind of a dark movie, like lighting wise. It's dark.
Yeah, I can see that. He's a little off-putting, probably for the little ones.
For the little ones, yeah. And then an Elf. We just reintroduced them to Elf. They forget about it every year, but that was playing last night. So they have a great time.
Elf is so good, man.
It's so good.
I can tell you, so having teenage kids, we're more Four Christmases, like is a must watch. And then Bad Moms Christmas. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet.
I've not seen that.
So you can't watch it with the kids. I mean, it's over the top, but it is so freaking good, dude. Really good. So
does Die Hard count? No, I'm just kidding.
No, we can get into that. We get into that, but as Chad said again last year, Chad had such great insight on our Christmas movie episode that like Christmas being a character in the movie can count. And that's sort of what Die Hard was. Like Christmas was sort of a character, was a backdrop, but it had nothing to do with Christmas. You just saw Christmas stuff behind them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess it's subjective, and the great arguments of all time. That's one of them for sure.
Absolutely. No right answer.
No right answer. No,
No right
not
answer.
at all. What was the other one? Oh, Home Alone we were talking about, but obviously that is a Christmas movie.
My wife's favorite. We've already watched that like 3 or 4 times.
I took the opposite stance talking to Assetti on that when he was so mad. He's like, dude, they were going on a Christmas trip, like on Christmas Eve. It was all crib. I know. But some people.
But Assetti thought that The Mighty Ducks was a good Christmas movie.
That's a great point. I think it was like Mighty Ducks 4 or something. It was
wasn't even the original.
The Electric Boogaloo. It was that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh man, awesome. Well, guys, I really appreciate your time, and we're going to do this a lot throughout the year. Our sales team's going to be getting out to the headquarters a lot this year as well. Now that we have the studio built out, so it's fun. We're all passionate about sales. We love talking about it, challenging each other, and telling the stories about how we got to where we're at. And so you'll see a lot more content like this on Talking Lots, I think. So Patrick Ford, Chad Fay, Merry Christmas to you guys. Very grateful to have you on the team. You guys are really the best. I think we hold down the city argument. Boston probably being the number one city in the company.
Obviously,
all those people in Pittsburgh just can't hold the candle. Celtics, Bruins, we're going to show them this year. So, grateful for you guys, and everybody. Will see you next time. Oh, Talking Lots podcast, which was on the Brian Hess Network. We're on the One Team Media Network. Same deal. You'll find it on there. Brian Hess is connected to all of it as well, but you're just going to find us parked there on YouTube. And we're on all the other platforms, of course, for podcasts, wherever you get them. So,
and you're live from Studio 2, correct?
Live from Studio 2. Thank you, sir. Absolutely. This is Studio 2 here in beautiful Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And happy to be broadcasting. All right, gentlemen, take care. And thanks for listening, everybody.